Tears of the Kingdom employs one of gaming's most simple yet elegant color coding designs to visually distinguish its three segmented worlds, thereby creating a unique yet powerful aura for all of its major biomes, and transporting the player physically as well as mentally, giving each of its three worlds a separate psychological mindset that orients the player to the type of gameplay they can expect to find in each of them. The Sky Islands enrapture you in warm pastel tones, immersing you in serene yellow and peach hues. This color scheme immediately signifies altitude and safety, as they're separate from the tumultuous lands brewing beneath you. They also evoke the transitional period between day and night, known as the Golden Hour, conjuring emotions such as contemplation and nostalgia. Yet the brightness of the island also elicits excitement and energy, which is what you should be feeling, as these were the premier selling point of Tears of the Kingdom, and what you should be most eager to discover. But this particular shade of yellow also has a meaning within the universe of the open-world Zelda titles, as this particular hue is used to convey the concept of time, as the previous game's stasis rune would bind objects in this golden color while you manipulated them to solve various puzzles. It's also extremely similar to the bright yellow that Zelda's holy abilities emit, as seen in the finale of Breath of the Wild when she seals away Ganon, giving the Sky Islands a divine aura that makes them act as a bridge between the land of mortals and the realm of the gods, which is why the Temple of Time can be found here. In stark contrast, the depths are enshrouded in deep neon blues and shadowy purples, which immediately communicate danger and the unknown. The electric blue tint of the few light sources serve as both an atmospheric garnish and as a navigational aid as you traverse these obscured lands. Yet they also employ a powerful contrast with the ethereal orange light roots, which create natural beacons that draw your attention. The use of blue in this darkened environment draws up feelings of isolation and loneliness, which beautifully complements the depth's threatening atmosphere, as there's little in the way of discovery down here, at least in terms of collectibles such as shrines and Koroks, as they instead represent a challenging locale to test your mettle and gather resources. Finally, while the surface world of Hyrule is wonderfully diverse, incorporating many vibrant, varied biomes, I'd say that the dominant shade for the surface is a lush green that represents home and safety, which is what I'd say the general association of the colour is. This makes it an excellent colour choice for the central hub area of the game, as the green is the most concentrated in Hyrule Field and its surrounding areas. This green serves as a visual relief from the other extreme hues you can find around the world, and gives you a natural reference point to help orientate you. But those extreme hues also employ colour theory excellently, though that's more attributable to Breath of the Wild rather than Tears of the Kingdom, so I'll skip analysis of those areas. The power of Tears of the Kingdom's use of colour lies in how it communicates the psychological workload to you and puts you in the right mindset to complete the tasks that's expected of you in each area. The Sky Islands are laid back and serene, which complements the puzzle-solving gameplay of those areas. The depths are intimidating and mysterious, which invites challenge and makes you want to conquer and uncover these treacherous lands. And the surface uses a variety of colours that provokes your imagination and encourages thorough exploration. This is effective because colour is the first thing our brain recognises, so it's a more immediate communication tool than size or shape, meaning that we can instinctively understand our location before our cognition kicks in. But beyond mechanics, the tri-palette design also communicates a narrative to us about our current biome by creating an emotional and thematic connection with each area. The Sky Islands are ancient, holy, and nostalgic. The depths are primordial, dangerous, and mysterious, and the surface is living, balanced, and familiar. And the contrast between all three of these areas creates a visual layering effect that enhances our immersion in each one. I will note that I don't like how there's no transitional colours between each layer, as you're just normally rocketed between them, but I suppose that would be difficult to do vertically. Yet our next game is excellent at seamless transitions between its biomes. Horizon Forbidden West has a map designed like a legendary painting, with loud, dominant colours boldly establishing a unique hue for each area. The desert is a sun-soaked and crisp gold, a deep jade for the jungles, and a desolate white for the mountains. Yet despite these sharp contrasts, the transition between them is seamless, as your mind fails to recognize where one ends and another begins. The genius of Forbidden West's colouring comes from its usage of colour gradients to indicate the shifting biome, how as Aloy journeys further west, the land continues to saturate from the rustic Daunt, to the pink sand beaches of Tide's Reach without a single clear-cut border to indicate where one ends and another begins. Many games will use rivers as natural borders to dictate where one art style ends and another begins, but Horizon only employs this technique a single time to isolate the Isle of Spires from the rest of the mainland, which I feel was done for narrative and gameplay reasons, so that you don't wander into an overleveled zone and get your teeth kicked in. Because there's no ocean in the modern day where one appears in the game, and the transition between beach-like areas would be seamless if they simply conjoined these two landmasses. Though I personally wouldn't change it, as seeing the isles off in the distance adds an extra sense of adventure as Aloy journeys westwards. But despite that, each area is colour-coded to psychologically engage you in a way that best represents the activities and difficulty of the zone. The Daunt uses a tanned rust and weathered earth tone, signifying the frontier setting as the westernmost place in the Sundom. The name itself implies that this is the penultimate area to a far more bountiful adventure waiting just beyond the borders. It also cleverly provides a neutral baseline, being artistically unimpressive compared to the vibrant masterpieces lying just out of reach, which makes the Forbidden West seem even more immaculate once you set foot in those untamed lands. An example of true colour design genius in Forbidden West is the Still Sands, which visually might look similar to the Daunt in terms of palette, but the much deeper shades of yellow give off far more mysticism. The intense amber glare creates an overwhelming sensory experience that communicates both beauty and danger, which is fitting since it serves a dual purpose. It evokes the danger lying in wait, conveying the harsh heat of the region, whilst the golden tones tantalize you with the suggestion of luxurious treasure buried just beneath the surface. But the best way in which Horizon's colour scheme invites gameplay opportunity is in its day-night cycle, which goes well beyond a simple tint change. The entire aura of each area dramatically shifts depending on what hue they're bathed in, and this is reflected in the gameplay, where nighttime encourages stealth approaches. While there's the standard reduced visibility, the unique art style of Horizon gives Forbidden West an advantage. Because the tribes of the West are adorned with kaleidoscopic colours, each one visually stands out with the assistance from the focus. This makes the enemies have a greater contrast at night as they stand out from the darkened environment. The thing that always holds me back from stealth runs is when I have to meticulously map out every enemy's initial location, and during the daytime I often miss one, get caught, and just wasted all my time scouting. Forbidden West doesn't have this problem, as it uses the distinct colours of enemies in opposition to its sullen nighttime, making it so stealth is the more viable approach when the moon is out. Furthermore, the machines are all implanted with neon wires that make them act as beacons under the shadow of night, meaning it's almost impossible not to immediately spot them, giving you the element of surprise. This serenity brought about by the evening encourages more relaxed and exploratory behaviour as you prod and poke at the sequel's many expanded systems. But while Tears of the Kingdom and West use colour to create immersive gameplay experiences and help make their worlds more navigable, Ghost of Tsushima is the only open-world game I've seen that uses colour to coincide with the emotional journey of its protagonist. The game deliberately separates the island of Tsushima into 3 distinct areas, only unlocked through story and by extension, character progression. This in turn makes Tsushima itself a silent narrator, as the chromatic desaturation of the island mirrors Jin's ethical evolution from samurai to ghost. The southern region of Izuhara utilizes vibrant spring colors, such as lush greens, immediately establishing Jin's starting point as an honorable samurai. These emerald tones and sakura blossoms paint an idealized view of samurai culture, evoking the golden age of the samurai and psychologically reinforcing themes of growth, renewal, and honor. Green serves as the perfect color to establish Jin's initial character, as it creates a natural beauty which underscores the samurai's code's emphasis on protecting the innocent, demonstrating Jin's role as a protector of life and tradition. The game uses these pure, undistilled colours to establish the values and philosophy that Jin will later come to question over the course of his crusade. Toyotama shifts the focus of colour to golden and amber palettes, a visual representation of Jin's waning morals. Yet another key feature of this region is the white pampas grass that dances in the wind. This stark shade is the visual opposite of the lush Izuhara we just left. Where those vibrant hues showed the purity of the samurai lifestyle, this whistling grass represents the blank morality that Jin is beginning to embrace as his ghost persona begins to grow. Furthermore, Toyotama is the most war-torn of the three regions, with the conflict between samurai and Mongol raging the hardest in this area. Again tying into the theme of conflict that Jin is facing. Does he stand valiantly alongside his samurai brethren, or descend into the shadows and rend the Mongols' heads from their necks? Finally, the northern region Kamigata is totally enveloped in an icy blue and snow-white palette, a muted and darkened region ravaged by the Mongol hordes. It's fitting that we only enter this region after Jin fully commits to becoming the ghost at Castle Shimura, finally descending into the darkness that has consumed him. Finally stripped of his honor, family, and even closest companion, Jin is now completely isolated and alone, perfectly reflected in this barren landscape's dreary tones. What makes this monochromatic hue so effective is the immense visual distinction from the vibrant earlier regions we traversed. It makes the darkened moral tundra ironically shine brighter, as the separation in tone from the rest of the game couldn't be more stark. The total absence of any warmth and light in this zone perfectly illustrates Jin's emotional state as he enters the final act and culmination of his character. This gives the land of Tsushima a role in the narrative as Jin struggles to save his homeland. That homeland begins to warp around his new ideology, reflecting the immense psychological toll he's been put under. This serves as a masterful storytelling technique that visually conveys Jin's journey, all without a whisper of dialogue. Illustrating a character arc this way is perfectly fitting for this game's title, as Ghost of Tsushima is a story about both protagonist and setting, meaning that both must develop in tandem as the events of the game unfold, creating an excellent three-act structure. As Jin descends from his noble origins to pragmatic finale, the land similarly changes alongside him, using its chromatic language to turn from emerald tradition to amber transition to white transformation, creating one of the most sublime uses of emotionally resonant environmental storytelling this medium has ever seen. For more Ghost of Tsushima essays, here's one on why I believe it's obvious Jin was never going to return.